I sat in the clinic parking lot for 2 full hours with the engine off, my phone lying face up on the passenger seat, vibrating every few minutes with messages I wasn't ready to read. The kidney transplant was scheduled in 12 days. I had said yes, or more accurately, I had let them believe I had. But the truth was, I had only signed the preliminary paperwork and left the rest unsigned in the desk drawer at home, beneath a stack of overdue bills and unopened insurance notices. Melissa, or let's call her what she really is now, her, had taken to speaking about the surgery like it was a second honeymoon. "Once this is over, we'll be stronger than ever," she said last week while buying throw pillows online. "We'll go somewhere warm. Just you and me. No doctors, no needles. Clean start." She didn't look up from her phone as she said it. She didn't say thank you. She didn't touch me. But something was off. She never talked about pain. Never once winced or held her side. The nephrologist said she was in stage 4 renal failure. She looked like she was in stage 0 model additions, flawless makeup, power walks in heels, kale smoothies and Pilates classes. Not a single prescription bottle anywhere in the house, not even a bottle of Tylenol. But every time her mother called, she put on the act. Voice trembling, breath shallow, a soft little, "I'm trying to stay strong," that sounded so rehearsed I nearly applauded the first time. The thing that broke the illusion. It was something almost stupid. I had forgotten to take out the trash on Tuesday. She lost it. Not the usual nagging or cold shoulder. I mean full meltdown, throwing the trash can, screaming about how she does everything, how I'm useless, how I don't care about her dying. But her mistake was slipping into third person. "She thinks you're not doing your part," she yelled. "She thinks?" I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at her, watched her gather herself, backpedal into another guilt trip. I nodded, went upstairs, and checked the call log on the landline we barely used. One number had been dialed almost every day at 1 p.m. Not a hospital, not her mom, just a number I didn't recognize. I wrote it down. I didn't sleep that night. I waited until she passed out, wine, not meds, and snuck her phone from her bag. It had a new passcode. She changed it last week. I tried birthdays, our wedding anniversary. Nothing worked. I put it back, sat beside her on the bed, and looked at her face. Perfect, calm, deceiving. The next morning I called the number. "Thanks for calling South Shore Auto Repair. This is Kevin."
Auto Repair?
I said nothing. Hung up. 10 minutes later I drove there. Kevin turned out to be younger than me by about 10 years. All tattoos and grease under his nails. Leaning on a Honda Civic with the confidence of someone who thinks he's the protagonist in a music video. I didn't introduce myself. I just asked, "Do you know Melissa?" He looked at me for 3 seconds too long. Said, "Melissa who?" I walked away. Didn't want to give him the satisfaction. That night, I asked her straight out, "What's going on with my car?" She blinked, surprised, but just for a split second. "Nothing." "Why?" "It was in the shop. South Shore. You didn't mention that." She tilted her head. "Oh yeah, I noticed a weird sound. Figured I'd get it checked while you were working late. It's fine now." "What was the problem?" She didn't answer right away. "Then oil thing. I don't know. They fixed it." That's when I knew she was lying. My car hadn't had a single issue. I get it serviced every 4 months, religiously. But she needed a reason to go there. To see him, Kevin. She didn't even try to make the lie believable. And that's what made it worse. She didn't respect me enough to even put effort into it. But here's where it really snapped. 3 days later, she told me to take the car to pick up a package from her friend's place. Said she had a headache, couldn't drive. I said fine. Got in, started the ignition, and every warning light on the dashboard lit up like a Christmas parade. Then the engine jerked. Not a small tremor. A full jolt like the thing had hiccups. I didn't drive it. I called a friend who worked at a dealership. Towed it there. He called me the next day. "Someone tampered with your brake line," he said. "Clean cut. Professional job." I didn't tell her I knew. Not right away. I wanted to see how far she'd go. The kind of lie she'd invent to explain a murder attempt dressed up as an engine malfunction. That night, I played the part calm, cooperative, concerned husband. I walked in with takeout from her favorite Thai place and a bottle of white wine she used to like before she decided she was suddenly more of a red person. She was on the couch, robe tied just a bit too tight, scrolling through her phone with a half-finished cucumber mask drying unevenly on her cheek. A vision of artificial peace. "I got the package," I said. "Car was fine, actually. That noise must have worked itself out." She didn't even look up. "Told you. Kevin's good." That name. That casual familiarity. Kevin. Like he was a family friend. A trusted mechanic. Not the man she was risking everything for, including my life, apparently. I opened the wine, poured her a glass, and sat down beside her. I watched her take a sip without flinching. No second thoughts.
No hesitación.
Like there was nothing hidden behind her eyes. "What would you do if I died in a car accident?" I asked. She gave a half-chuckle. "What kind of question is that?" "Just wondering." She turned her head slightly, squinting like she was trying to figure out the trick in a magic show. "Are you okay?" I nodded. "Just thinking about life insurance." That got her attention. She set her glass down a little too carefully. "We don't have life insurance." "We do," I said. "You set it up 6 months ago, remember? Right after your diagnosis. You insisted on it." She blinked. Just once. It was enough. "Oh, right. Yeah, that's right." I didn't press. I let it hang in the air, toxic and quiet. Then I stood up, kissed her on the forehead, and told her I had to meet a friend. I didn't go to a friend. I went to the family doctor. The one who did the tests. The one who confirmed that I was a match. The one who never once talked to her directly, only to me. I asked him the simplest question. "Did Melissa ever request my results?" He frowned.
No.
"We're not allowed to release medical information to anyone but the patient. Did she ever contact you?" He paused.
No.
But there was something odd. Her diagnosis came from a different clinic. Out of state. Never sent full records. Just a note with the stage and urgency. It seemed rushed. "Can I see it?" He hesitated.
Technically, no.
"But I can tell you this much. It wasn't signed by a nephrologist. It was signed by someone without credentials. Just an initial and last name." "Let me guess," I said. "K. Whitaker." He looked up, surprised. "Yeah. How'd you know?" "Kevin. Of course." The mechanic was faking medical paperwork. Or someone he knew was. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated. Cold. Organized. I drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than I should have. I had a plan now, and I needed to see just how far she was willing to go. That night, I told her I changed my mind. "I'm going to do the surgery," I said. "I want to give you the kidney." She looked at me for the longest time, like I just said something in a language she didn't speak. Then she smiled. Not a warm smile. Not relief. It was the smile of someone who had won. She kissed me. For the first time in weeks. It didn't feel like affection. Felt like sealing a deal. And just like that, the countdown began. She became perfect after that. Overnight, the woman who barely looked up from her phone during conversations was suddenly waking up early to make breakfast. She laid my clothes out in the mornings like it was 1955. She rubbed my shoulders, left sweet little notes in my briefcase, laughed at my dumb jokes like she hadn't hated me the week before. It was a performance, and a damn good one. She even cried once while watching a commercial about a dog. Theatrical tears. No smudge in her eyeliner. I wanted to believe it. Some pathetic part of me did. But mostly I just took notes. The next thing I did was install cameras in the house. Not because I thought she'd do something while I was gone. Because I needed proof. Real, hard proof. Something that couldn't be explained away with one of her classic "you misunderstood" routines. I bought the smallest cameras I could find. Hid them in the vents, one in the bedroom lamp, and one inside the air freshener on the kitchen counter. She never noticed. The second thing I did was tell my parents the truth. Or some of it. We hadn't spoken in weeks. They were still furious over the refusal. I sat them down, told them I was going through with it, but that I had doubts about her diagnosis. My mom immediately jumped to defense. "She's fighting for her life. You're just scared." But my dad, he narrowed his eyes. "What kind of doubts?" "She's not sick," I said. "She's faking it. Or someone is faking it for her. And I think she's been cheating on me." My mom gasped like I'd slapped her. My dad leaned back and looked at me for a long time before finally saying, "Do you have proof?" "Not yet. But I will." They didn't offer help. They didn't hug me, but my dad did say something as I was leaving. If you're right, walk away before you're in deeper than you can survive. It sounded dramatic at the time, but he had no idea how right he was. 3 days later, I got my first hit from the kitchen camera. I was out of the house for 40 minutes. She thought I'd be gone longer. Kevin showed up. They didn't touch.
No hugs, no kisses.
He handed her something, an envelope, and she opened it immediately. Read the papers inside. Nodded. Said something I couldn't hear. He looked annoyed. She looked satisfied. Then he left. I watched it 6 times. Froze the frame where she smiled. It was the same smile she gave me when I told her I'd go through with the surgery. I didn't confront her yet. I wanted more. I needed to know how deep this went. I called a friend of mine who worked in insurance fraud investigations. Told him I was doing research for a writing project about fake medical documents and asked what I should look for. He laughed. Look for consistency errors. Signatures that don't match. Dates that are off. And if someone's trying to manipulate someone into surgery, that's criminal coercion. I asked, what if it's a spouse? He paused. Still illegal, just harder to prove. You'd need a doctor to admit the diagnosis was forged or a confession. Then he added something that stuck with me. If someone's faking something that big, there's usually a second game. Something else thereafter. I knew what it was. The life insurance. The money. Maybe even my identity. She needed me to die a hero. A noble sacrifice. A clean obituary. Not a bitter divorcee calling her a liar. The next day, I went to the clinic and told them I wanted to delay the transplant. Just 1 week. They said no. Your wife insisted we keep the original date. She said she was scared it might be too late otherwise. She insisted? I asked. Yes, the nurse replied. She called 3 times. I smiled and nodded. I thanked them for their time. Then I left, walked to my car, sat in silence and called a lawyer. The lawyer's office smelled like new carpet and stale coffee. He looked like someone who'd been born inside a courtroom. Gray suit, sharp eyes, and a stare that peeled through layers. I didn't need divorce papers. Not yet. What I needed was protection. I explained the situation in full, minus names. Hypotheticals. A man suspects his wife is faking illness. A man suspects she's attempting to manipulate him into a surgery. A man finds evidence of an affair. A man narrowly avoids a fatal brake failure. His pen stopped moving halfway through. Are you saying your wife tried to kill you? I'm saying it doesn't feel like an accident, I answered. Do you have proof? Not yet, but I will. He leaned back. If she is doing what you think she is, you're in the middle of something much bigger than a divorce. You need to prepare for what happens if this turns criminal. If you're right, this isn't just manipulation. It's conspiracy and attempted manslaughter. Possibly even fraud, depending on how she filed the insurance. The next hour was a blur of forms and consultations. By the time I left his office, I had the beginnings of a case file and a contact at a private investigation firm. He also gave me one piece of advice I hadn't expected. Get out of your house. Now, quietly. Leave, and let her believe you're still under her thumb. So I did. I packed a single bag that night while she was in the bath. Told her I was going on a short work trip. Kissed her on the cheek. Told her I loved her, and walked out. I moved into a friend's empty rental property 2 towns over. Sparse furniture, cold walls, and silence thick enough to drown in. But it was safe. The next morning I met the PI. Her name was Rachel, ex-cop, zero nonsense. I handed her the footage, the receipts, the insurance forms, the phone numbers, every shred of information I had. She watched in silence. Whoever she's working with is careful, Rachel said. But you're not wrong. That cut-break line? That's not random. That's a message. They're not trying to kill you yet. They're trying to scare you into compliance. Or maybe set up a tragic accident once everything's lined up. She gave me a burner phone. We keep everything off-grid now. Don't call her unless I say so. Let her think she's still winning. The next few days felt like living in a vacuum. She texted constantly. Updates about her condition. Dramatic little videos of her pretending to be exhausted. Selfies with hot tea and blankets. All fake. All too perfect. Like a scripted reality show. Then she slipped. 2 days after I left, she sent me a photo. herself lying in bed, pale and sickly, captioned, "I can't believe I'm doing this alone." But in the reflection of her nightstand mirror, there was something she missed. A man's legs, jeans, work boots. Someone was in our bedroom, while I was away, and she hadn't meant to show it. I sent the photo to Rachel. She zoomed in, enhanced it, and confirmed what we already knew. Kevin was still very much part of the picture, and Melissa had gotten sloppy. The trap was almost ready. We needed one more thing, a confession. Getting her to confess wasn't going to be easy. Not to me. Not directly. Melissa had built her empire on gaslighting and pretty lies. Truth was never her default. She didn't crack under confrontation. She weaponized it. I needed her off balance, caught between comfort and paranoia. And most of all, I needed her to believe she had already won. So we fed the illusion. I texted her sweet nothings every night from the burner Rachel gave me. I told her I missed her, that I was scared but committed, that the surgery couldn't come soon enough. Every message was carefully worded to stroke her ego and reassure her I was still playing the fool. She replied with voice notes, dramatic sighs. "You're my hero. I don't know what I'd do without you. No one's ever loved me like you do." And then, on the 5th night, she called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message, voice heavy with crocodile tears. "I know it's hard, but once this is over, you'll see. Everything will make sense. You just have to trust me." It was almost too on the nose. Rachel had an idea. Risky, but brilliant. "We get her to talk to Kevin," she said. "We wire your house, and we give her a reason to vent. Something that shakes her, makes her panic. If she thinks you're getting suspicious again, she'll run to her co-conspirator." So we staged it. I sent a text from the burner. "Hey, did the doctor call you?" He left me a weird voicemail. Said something was off in the paperwork. Her reply came 10 minutes later. "Call me. Now." I didn't. Instead, Rachel and her tech team went into the house while she was out, running errands, and rigged the place. Bedroom, kitchen, even the garage. The next day, I came home for a brief visit. I dropped off flowers, kissed her, told her we needed to talk later that week, that I'd spoken to the hospital. Her smile cracked for half a second. That night, Kevin came over. We watched the footage live. They were in the kitchen, her arms around his neck, but her voice was sharp, angry. He said the doctor found something. "I told you this would happen if we pushed the surgery too soon." Kevin tried to calm her. "So what? He's bluffing. He doesn't know anything. If he did, he wouldn't be texting you love notes." She yanked away. "You don't understand, he's not that dumb. I think he's baiting me." Kevin scoffed. "So what, we back out? After everything?" Melissa hissed. "If he cancels the transplant, we lose everything. You think I went through all this just to end up with nothing?" Kevin stared at her. "You told me you had it under control." "I did," she snapped, until he started asking questions. She took a breath, lowered her voice. "If he backs out, we need to act fast. You know what we talked about." Rachel looked at me. I stared at the screen, numb. Melissa poured herself a drink. Ice clinked against glass like the ticking of a countdown. Kevin leaned in. "You sure about that?" She looked him dead in the eyes. "If it comes to it, yeah, we do it. An accident. Fast. Clean. Like we planned." Rachel whispered into her mic. "We've got it." Everything changed in that moment. My wife, the woman I shared a life with, was ready to end it with a fast, clean accident. Because her prize wasn't love. It wasn't even freedom. It was money, control, a life without consequences. But she didn't know we were listening. Not yet. And we weren't done. The confession was raw, unfiltered. No metaphors, no wiggle room. She said it, with her own mouth. They planned to kill me if I backed out. Rachel sent the footage to her legal contact that same night. We had everything we needed, motive, means, and a recorded conspiracy. But we weren't going to the police just yet. "Let's see what she does next," Rachel said. "When cornered, people like her get creative. And sloppy." She was right. The next morning, I sent Melissa one more message. Something vague. "We need to talk. I know what's been going on." Then I went dark. No calls.
No replies.
No breadcrumb to follow. Just silence. Melissa spiraled. She texted, called, emailed, even tried messaging my sister. Within 12 hours, she was unraveling. I watched it all on the monitors we still had running. She paced the kitchen, phone in one hand, wine glass in the other. Kevin called twice, she ignored both. Then she started tearing through drawers and cabinets, like she was searching for something. By nightfall, she snapped. She drove to the clinic. Rachel followed. Melissa stormed inside, demanded to speak to the transplant coordinator. She was loud, emotional. She said she needed to expedite the surgery because her husband was spiraling, said I was becoming unstable, erratic, and might try something stupid. She dropped the word suicidal. It was all part of the setup. She wanted the clinic to pressure me, to force me into agreeing quickly, before I could say anything that might unravel her narrative. But what she didn't know was that Rachel had a second investigator already inside, posing as a patient. She filmed the entire interaction from the waiting room, captured every word, every fabricated concern. That same night, Melissa called my parents. My dad answered on speaker. I was in the room. She didn't even say hello, just dove into the script. Please talk to him, she begged. He's been acting strange. He thinks I'm faking my illness. He said horrible things.
I'm scared.
I don't want to lose him, but I don't know what else to do. My dad looked at me as she spoke, his face like stone. Then he asked, "What's your doctor's name again?" "The one who diagnosed you." Silence on her end. 2 seconds. 3. Then, I'd have to check. I've been seeing so many lately. Right? Dad said. Then hung up without another word. She called back. Left a message. Then another. Each one more frantic than the last. That night, she came to the rental house. I saw her on the porch camera. She knocked once. Then again. Then tried the door. I didn't answer. She stood there for almost 10 minutes. Then she did something I'll never forget. She took out her phone, dialed, and said, "He knows." Pause. "I don't know. But if he goes to the cops, we're done." Long silence. Then, "We need to do it sooner." She didn't know the camera was running, that the microphone outside was catching every word. Rachel downloaded the file and sent it to her contact with a simple message. Time to move. The morning after that porch call, Rachel and I met in the back office of her PI firm. A dimly lit room lined with file cabinets and monitors that felt more like a war bunker than a workplace. She had barely slept. Neither had I. She dropped a USB on the table. "We've got enough. Attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud. You want justice? We hand this to the DA. You'll never have to see her again." But I didn't nod. Not yet. Because justice was one thing. Closure was another. "I want one more thing," I told her. "I want her to admit it to me, face to face." Rachel leaned back, arms crossed. "You're playing with fire. I want to see the look on her face when she knows it's over. No lies left. No exit strategy." Rachel stared at me for a long second. Then she slid a small device across the table. A hidden recorder. That afternoon, I texted Melissa and told her we needed to meet. Neutral ground. A coffee shop halfway between my rental and our old place. She agreed instantly. I got there early. Sat at the far corner, back to the wall, recorder tucked beneath the folded napkins. She walked in 10 minutes late, dressed too perfectly for dying. Flawless makeup, heels, an outfit calculated to look fragile but still camera-ready. Her eyes scanned the place like she was expecting someone to jump out and confront her. I didn't smile. She sat down. "I've been worried sick," she began. "You disappeared. You lied to me," I said, calm. "Even. I panicked," she replied. "You said something about the doctor, and I didn't know what you meant. I thought you were losing it. You're not sick." That shut her up for a second. Her eyes darted, calculating. Then came the deflection. "Why would you say that? I know everything, Melissa. The fake papers, the voice messages, Kevin, and then the crack. You went through my stuff?" She hissed, voice low. "That's what you're focusing on?" She leaned forward. "You don't understand what I've been through. You tried to kill me." The table between us went ice cold. Her face didn't flinch, but her hand twitched. Slight, barely there. She licked her lips, looked around the cafe. "Lower your voice." "No," I said. You lowered your standards. You built a lie so big you forgot who you were lying to. You made me the villain, and then tried to end me because I didn't follow the script." She exhaled sharply, like air being punched from her lungs. Then the mask dropped, just for a moment, and she smiled, that same twisted, victorious smile. "You were always too soft," she whispered. "I needed someone who could finish things. You needed to feel important."
Ich zerrte her.
"You're going to jail." The smile faded. "No one's going to believe you," she said. "You've been unstable for months. I've got messages, witnesses. I'll say you threatened me." I stood up, took the napkin stack with me, walked out. In the car, I handed Rachel the recorder. "Get it to the DA," I said. She didn't say a word, just nodded, and we drove straight to the courthouse. The DA's office was a fortress of pale lighting and gray walls, sterile and heavy with the weight of ruined lives being sorted into folders. Rachel and I sat in the interview room for nearly an hour, replaying the recording for the assistant district attorney while he listened, not reacting, just writing short, sharp notes that said more than his face ever did. When the tape ended, he leaned back and let out a breath. "She admits to manipulation, fraud, and intent to harm. The brake tampering. Do we have forensics on that?" "Yes," Rachel said, sliding over the mechanic's report. "Clean slice in the brake line, and the timing lines up with a visit from her associate, Kevin Whitaker." The ADA nodded slowly. "This is open and shut. Once we find the paper trail." He turned to me. "You said she filed life insurance in your name, correct?" "Yeah. Through an agent she met during her treatment phase. She insisted on it. Made it sound like she was doing me a favor. We'll subpoena every policy she touched. If there's a payout connected to your death, she's cooked." I left that office not with a sense of victory, but with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. The storm was still around me, but for the first time, I could see the path through it. Melissa must have felt the shift, because that evening, she showed up at my temporary place. Not texting, not calling, just knocking. Rachel and I watched her on the security feed. She looked different, desperate, almost unhinged. Her mascara was smudged. Her shoes were mismatched. She knocked again, then started screaming. "I know you're in there. You don't get to disappear." I didn't answer. She tried the doorknob. Then she started pacing, yelling every possible version of a threat she could think of. "I will ruin you. I'll tell everyone what you did. You think they'll believe you over me?" Rachel called the police. Said a woman with a history of threats and manipulation was attempting to break into a private residence. She wasn't lying. By the time the officers arrived, Melissa had collapsed on the front lawn, crying into her phone. It was all theater, perfect for the crowd of curious neighbors that had started to gather. They didn't arrest her. Not yet, but they asked her to leave, took her name, told her she was trespassing and that any further visits would result in charges. She screamed at them, screamed at me, even though I hadn't shown my face. But when she finally left, something in her broke. You could see it in the way she got into her car, slow, defeated, robotic. Like she knew the lie was crumbling and there was no one left to clap for her performance. That night, Rachel got a call. The subpoenaed insurance documents had come in. Melissa had not only filed a life policy in my name, she designated herself the sole beneficiary. The paperwork was backdated to 2 weeks after she received the fake diagnosis. She'd even forged my signature. The DA filed charges the next morning. Fraud, attempted manslaughter, conspiracy to commit murder. A warrant was issued by lunch. By the time they went to arrest her, she was gone. Melissa vanished like a puff of smoke. No credit card activity. Her phone went dark. Her car was found in an airport parking garage, but there were no flight records under her name or known aliases. Kevin disappeared too. His garage shut down overnight, his apartment abandoned with food still on the stove. Rachel had warned me this might happen. She's not stupid. She's not impulsive. She knew the walls were closing in. She had an escape plan. The FBI got involved. The charges were too serious, the fraud too layered to ignore. Melissa's actions crossed state lines, involved forged medical documents, and the attempted murder of a spouse. She was no longer just a manipulative partner. She was a fugitive. But as the man she tried to destroy, I wasn't focused on headlines or investigations. I was living in the aftershock. Days became a carousel of interviews, paperwork, and reminders of how close I had come to being erased by someone I had once trusted with everything. I couldn't sleep in silence anymore. I couldn't drive without checking my brakes. I couldn't sit in a restaurant without facing the door. That's the kind of damage no jail sentence can undo. 3 weeks after her disappearance, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name, printed in block letters. Inside, one sheet of paper, typed,
No signature.
"You always wanted the truth. Now you have it. But you should ask yourself, what did you do to deserve this? You made me feel invisible, disposable. You thought loyalty meant obedience. You were never the victim. You were just the last one to realize the game had started." There was a single sentence underlined at the bottom. "I don't forgive you." Rachel took the letter to the authorities. They scanned it for prints, nothing. Traced the paper stock to a local print shop, dead end. It was a message designed to haunt, not reveal. For a while, I didn't tell anyone, not even my parents. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer I never opened again. Because that sentence wasn't a farewell. It was a warning. She was still out there, watching, maybe waiting. But I had already decided. I wasn't running anymore. 6 months passed. Melissa never resurfaced. Kevin either. The manhunt went cold despite federal involvement, interstate alerts, and a feature on a national crime segment that aired her face to millions. No hits.
No credible sightings.
Just silence, stretched so thin it started to feel permanent. My life became quieter. Not normal. That wasn't possible anymore. But structured. I returned to work slowly. Reconnected with people I'd cut off during the worst of it. My parents apologized, not with words but with actions. My dad helped me rebuild the garage door Melissa broke when she stormed out one night. My mom dropped off groceries every other Friday, no questions asked. I still hadn't sold the house. People thought I should, but I needed to face it. Every room was a memory, yes, but also a battlefield I'd survived. I tore down the cameras, painted the walls, replaced the bed. Not because I wanted to forget, because I refused to let the past claim any more space than it already had. One day, Rachel called. She was done with the case. The evidence was turned in, the trail cold, the warrants active but stagnant. But she wanted to meet, just one more time. We sat in the same booth where I'd confronted Melissa months earlier. Rachel slid a file across the table. "She bought 2 burner phones," she said. "One was recovered. The other's last ping came from a cabin 3 states away. Isolated. Remote. But the trail ends there." "Then she's gone," I said. Rachel shook her head.
No.
"She's hiding. That's different." I opened the file. It was a collection of photos. Melissa and Kevin together. Older pictures, candid. Coffee shops. Parking lots. Park bench. Always close. Always pretending not to be more than friends. Rachel leaned in. "You said you wanted closure. This is it. You were right. About everything. And I was. But it didn't feel like victory. Felt like aftermath. She had planned to turn me into a memory. An obituary. A tragic husband who died nobly, donating his kidney to his dying wife. While she cashed out the policy, wiped her tears on national television, and vanished into a new life with her mechanic lover. What did I learn? That evil doesn't always come in darkness. Sometimes it dresses itself in soft voices, empty hugs, and goodnight kisses. Sometimes it laughs at your jokes while planning your exit. And the worst betrayal is not when someone lies to your face. It's when they build an entire world on the assumption you'll never ask the right question. So here's my advice. Ask it. Ask the hard question. The one that feels wrong to say out loud. Trust your gut when something doesn't add up. And never, ever hand over your heart or your kidney to someone who wouldn't flinch at trading it for silence and money. Melissa may have disappeared, but she'll never be free. And I'll never forget. Because the scar isn't in my body. It's in the moment I realized someone who once said, "I love you," looked at me and thought, "You are more valuable dead than alive." And still, I lived.